You only get one shot at it. You will regret this decision every time you're alone in your hotel room. You will always have your job back here. Is this some endless pursuit of a carrot on a stick? You have the whole package. You can do anything you want. You'll miss out on having children. Make decisions out of hope, not fear. If you don't change direction, you'll end up where you're headed. Women just can't have it all. You've been in this mental arm wrestle for over 2 years. Don't ask me to approve your decisions. Just ask me for some help. You only get one shot at it. 6 years ago, I was this confident civil engineer, project managing on a construction site, a job that I loved. Location, Sydney Harbour waterfront. Men, managing 20. Cranes, got 2. Concrete, pouring truckloads. Board rolls, too many. Career progression on a chart like a hockey stick. Career path, approaching an intersection. You see, this chick had met a farmer. A couple of years earlier, in this small outback town of just 300 people, this tall, unshaven, scruffy-haired farmer smiled with his whole body when I walked into that lonely bar. His shoulders relaxed and he stood a little taller, and under his akubra were hazel eyes and a big heart. And a week later, a now clean-shaven, short-haired farmer smiled with his whole body when he asked me to dance. Just as my career was taking off in Sydney, the farmer asked me a different question. Do you want to move to the farm, babe? And so I handed in my resignation, and I felt all this pressure to rationalise my decision. And putting all Superman capes aside, I can admit it was pretty hard to block that stuff out. You'll get bored out there. You had so much potential. You're leaving a job that pays you how much? Or the young man with the wry smile who simply said, you know, there's other fish in the sea. Contrast that with the really empowering statements like, you will always have your job back here. What's the worst thing that can happen? Or the odd text message from my sister that simply says #YOLO. You know, these decisions that we come up against, there is so much noise every time. And I had this gut feeling that my mother and grandfather left a lot unsaid at the time, and we'll come back to that. Einstein said the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is just a faithful servant. But today we live in this society that honours the servant and has totally forgotten the gift. And for me, making decisions has always, turned out all right when I use reason and I rationalise everything. But this willingness just to follow my intuition has led to some of the best decisions. What would it be like if we just took a break from rationalising everything? I resigned and I followed my heart to outback New South Wales, to a 50,000-acre farm. Listening to my intuition allowed me to break up with the job that I loved, to chase the man of my dreams. And so I left the city and the adventure began. I arrived in outback New South Wales in the middle of summer. A heat wave melted all my lipsticks across the front seat of the car, and a brown snake took refuge in the cool underneath my office desk. We were in this 1880s homestead with a leaky roof and an outdoor bathroom, and the nearest neighbours were the farmer's parents, and they were 20 minutes drive away on the same farm, which was always well worth it to go over for a cup of tea, a Sunday roast, or to see the pet kangaroo. One afternoon, while just driving home from water skiing, I had my hand out the window just catching the breeze, thinking, my life could be so different right now. And I'm so glad it's not. I was the one now that was relaxing, and I was smiling with my whole body. And after a couple of weeks of this routine, I got bored. But there weren't any job opportunities out there, and there also wasn't any pressure to perform. So I took a bit of time to think about what I really wanted to do, and I founded this engineering company. My entrepreneurial spirit pretty much just grabbed my engineering passion by the hand and let me have the career I wanted, no matter where I chose to live. We used to pick up these broken government infrastructure projects and just deliver them for about 50 councils around Australia. It was a bit like an incubator, but for infrastructure. And we grew very quickly, and I was just one day after the other, 1 foot in front of the other, making it work. It was like I was just at the intersection of hard work, opportunity, and a lot of luck. You know, no one would have thought that the chick that walked off that construction site, that left that well-worn career path, would end up being the next Australian Young Professional Engineer of the Year. And what happened is society gave me back my damn hockey stick. And you know, that farmer, he was trending upwards too. Every morning about 10 a.m, he'd appear in front of my office window. Cup of tea, love? You can imagine my surprise after 3 years of this routine when a helicopter lands beside my office and the farmer jumps out from behind the controls. You want a ride, love? It had been the greatest ride of my life. By just doing a good job of living, I was quickly accomplishing everything that I could dare to dream up. And then it dawned on me that I had actually accomplished everything. And it's one of those difficult conversations at the dinner table where you let the words slip, I've run out of dreams. If you drew your dreams on a piece of paper, what would they look like? And 10 years from now, if you found that piece of paper, how would it feel if everything you'd ever imagined was there? I drew that picture. Sitting in my office with my 2 black Labradors playing at my feet, I unfolded a piece of paper that I had long forgotten about. There was a farm, a farmer, 2 dogs, a ski boat, a house, and I was pretty surprised to see in the bottom corner a little building that said JLK Engineering. When I looked at that page, it didn't feel the way I thought it would. I questioned the reality of spending my next 70 years frozen in time on that piece of paper. At the end of the day, I knew that I had let my dreams become defined by the boundary fences of that 50,000-acre farm, and I wouldn't be satisfied with that status quo. So that afternoon, I sat in the dirt watching my farmer change this tractor tyre that was bigger and heavier than he was. I begged him to come to New York on holidays, and he just laughed. The next day, the phone rang and a council wanted me to work on a $10 million construction project down the road, and I froze. The confidence with which I started that company was buried so far underneath the insecurity and the unknowns of the approaching decision. And so I started to solicit advice. Jillian, you will regret this decision every time you are alone in a hotel room. You're approaching your 30s, you'll miss out on having children, and there is no way you'll find someone that you love as much as that. Really? Is that my metric for making a decision? If you don't change direction, you'll end up where you're headed. Which direction's that? My mother said to me, soothing my moment of indecision, you only get one shot at it. And my grandfather said, you have the whole package. You can do anything you want. Thanks, Grandad. When I drove out the farm gate at midnight, I held on to those words. And I left behind a farm and a family that I will never be a part of. A house that we were renovating into a home, 2 beautiful black Labradors, and the farmer, ending a relationship of 9 years. Honestly, and something I have never said out loud, is that I so badly wanted headlights to appear in my revision mirror. I wanted to be chased down that road. I wanted to just collapse into someone's arms and say, this change is so hard. I don't want to have to go through all this pain. But deep down, I wanted to take the shot. What was left unsaid that night were the words that I believe no one's arms were strong enough to hold without judging me or without pressuring me to turn back. You only get one shot at it. Be brave. The only thing more painful than an unsatisfying status quo is change. What kept me driving that night were the enabling words that didn't take a position and they didn't label it. And the reason for that is if you think about what my mother and grandfather said, I had interpreted those statements to empower my direction and my intuition. After all, Mum could have meant you only get one shot at that relationship, and Granddad could have meant you have the whole package, you can make it work on that farm, you can find new dreams. What did they mean? What was their intention in making those statements? I've never asked. And 3 years later, I don't have to. Just surround yourself with people who empower you with words to follow your intuition. Be that person to someone else. Stop rationalising everything and take ownership of that goddamn hockey stick. For me, it's just about the long game of life. Often a decision can seem so overwhelming until we just take its magnitude, divide that by 70, take the shot and freeze your dreams on no man's pages. When my granddaughters ask me, "Did you do a good job of living?" the only metric that matters is the one that lets me say yes. You only get one shot at it. Thank you.